Emerson is way past. And Gordon now comes up into 4th place.
Remember, Gordon, with no radio, he cannot talk to his pits. They can talk to him. That is a handicap, though, no question.
So Robbie Gordon now to 4th. Had some problems this year. Robbie's been frustrated the first couple of events.
He's the first one today that moved the group out high. Showed everybody that they could be passed on the outside. That's something that many years ago didn't happen at Phoenix, incidentally.
Jimmy Vasser out of the race. He lost both 5th and 6th gear. Now let's go back to what we were discussing at the start of the race. We'll keep an eye. It's Al Unser Jr. moving up, but of course Little Al is running in 11th place and 3 laps behind the race itself, so he's truly not in contention. Going back to the start of the show, we were talking, for example, about Herta, about his engine. Let's begin and review with Jack Arute.
Brian Herta had his share of problems, but he led early, so it looks as if the influence of Bo Nunn, well, that was positive. The effects of the new engine didn't seem to hurt him when it came time to run the race package. The same can be said for Jacques Villeneuve. Villeneuve running just as we expected. The Firestone Tire and Rubber Company, Scott Pruitt, they were up to 3rd until that black flag penalty. What about your stories, Gary?
Well, Paul Tracy on this set of tires has developed another push, but he is up here, I believe, running in 2nd place at the moment. Remember, Michael Andretti had a problem on the pit stop. They couldn't change the left rear, but he's gone from 5th to 3rd. So obviously, the car seems to somehow be responding. Emerson Fittipaldi, we touched on him. Well, Evo's been the story of the day, it would seem. Team Penske right up there in the top spot.
The speed on the oval, of course, part of the story at the start. We've seen Emerson Fittipaldi run 169.3 miles an hour as we watch Michael Andretti to take the lead of the race away from Paul Tracy. We've had 2 yellow flags for a total of 8 laps, and as a result of that, the average speed of the race is at 129.8. But if they can keep flying, as we watch Herta in the pits again, they might be able to get up toward Roberto Ferraro's record of 138.050. Let's go back to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, it just seems that the spark has been taken right out of Chip Ganassi's team. They're doing it mechanically and methodically, but for Brian Herta, once he got that penalty, they're not as jaunty. They're not jumping up and down. They know that they're not in the hunt for the lead.
Yeah, let's also keep in mind now we look at Michael Andretti, who's really running very good in 3rd place, but he didn't get that left rear. Now, he's got about half of the race. If they can't change it again, if they can make it to the end, he's going to really have a good chance at least of being hurting on that left rear tire, because left side tires do get worn out after a while.
Mauricio Guzman just onto the outside there for a moment as we come back to the front of this field. And Emerson Fittipaldi, he won here last year. Is he on his way again? Fittipaldi looking very solid. Once he got around Paul Tracy, he really began to pull hard. 145 laps complete of the 200-mile race. Fittipaldi's in front. Looking down on the bull ring that is Phoenix International from high above in the Goodyear Blimp Eagle. They've been providing these aerial shots, been very helpful today. Goodyear, of course, travels all over the country with their blimps, over 100,000 miles every year, covering major sporting events. And we've got a car sliding, and that is DeFerrin. Looks like he almost had it saved until he caught those tires at the end of the wall. That'll bring out the yellow. And as a matter of fact, since we are under yellow, they will close up. Let's start with Jack Arute. And Jack, what's this going to do to pit strategy and fuel?
Well, Paul, before we had this yellow, I checked with Team Penske, and they said it is going to be very, very close. When I asked them if they could go the distance, we got a problem with our microphone here. They just smiled. They weren't sure. This caution is welcome for them, but the question is whether they will stay out and whether they will come in or not, because that's how close it was. It was down to 1 lap.
Well, DeFerrin got back underway, Jack, so it is going to be a fairly short yellow.
We're going to find out right now. Let's see what this number 2 car does. He's not going to the pits. He's chosen to stay out, so Penske is gambling. Penske is gambling that they can make it to the end. Remember, now in the yellows, you get about twice the fuel mileage as you do under the green.
So DeFerrin comes in, at least for a check of the tires and a change. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Newman Haas has elected to keep their drivers, Tracy and Andretti, running 2nd and 3rd on the track. They made the call for the driver. The driver says, we will stay out. That's going to save Michael in terms of fuel, because he was definitely going to have a splash and go, but there's still concern over the wear on that left rear tire.
DeFerrin was up running in 8th place. There it is. boy, hang on to it.
He had
no control at all when you're on the grass. He didn't really get control until he got back on pavement.
He didn't have any control for a long time there. He was just riding in that car, Paul.
He had been the front running of the men that had not raced here before, the rookies.
The tenacious Scott Pruitt continues to hang on to the tail end of the leader lap in 6th position. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, Jacques Villeneuve is going to gamble, and this is what we've seen with Team Green so many times before. They are going to stay out. They're not going to come in. They're going to be marginal on fuel, but they feel that they can roll the dice. It's kind of like having an ace in your pocket when you're playing 21 and only having a 5 showing. It could go either way.
You know, yesterday in practice, Jack, we noticed that a lot of the guys were running, or after the qualifying is over, were running till the end and running out of fuel. This is what they were running out for, was to see, could they run the cars out and come in and have all the fuel gone? That's the whole secret to it. They don't even want a quart left in it.
Well, Bobby, you know, you're so right. One of the things that these teams do so well as compared to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago is they like to try all the different scenarios, both in practice and then in pre-race. You know, we've seen guys now literally changing the noses, trying to time that. We've seen guys running out of fuel. You can't leave anything up to chance anymore.
So Emerson Fittipaldi, under yellow, is the leader of the race. Saturday, the Professional Bowlers Tour rolls into Detroit for the second jewel of their Triple Crown, the U.S. Open. And then, on ABC's Wide World of Sports, it's off to Colorado for the World Mountain Biking Championships, plus the finals of the Foot Locker Slam Fest, and a key race on the road to the Kentucky Derby as the NASDAQ presents the Santa Anita Derby. That's all Saturday here on ABC Sports. So Fittipaldi has the lead. Our third yellow of the day. This one caused with Bill DeFerrin spun. But now we're ready to come back to green flag.
See how quickly he nailed it?
Now it's going to be a contest. Everybody keep watching. Fuel. Fuel is going to be the thing. Fuel is what we got to watch for. If any of them, who's going to run out first?
160 laps are complete. That's Tracy in close pursuit, just a little over a second and a half back. Let's go back to Jack. Robbie Gordon. Jack is running in 4th place, so his day's getting better.
His day's getting better, but he's gambling as well. Walker and company have decided to stay out. They did not pit. They're marginal on fuel as well, but they say, with a smile, we can go the distance. And then they whisper, we hope.
And remember, Jack, that it was last year that they did run out of fuel here, so they're rolling the dice once again.
And you can believe that Robbie Gordon realized that as soon as they radioed to him that he was going to stay out.
Now, another thing, all these drivers have computers in their cars. They can read on the dash, theoretically, how far they can make it.
Pruitt just got around Villeneuve. That's a move for 5th place. Now he's got just ahead of him Robbie Gordon. Nice tight little fight here. Leaders are separated by 2 seconds now. Michael Andretti sitting back a full second yet from 2nd place. Thank goodness we have EDS scoring, because on this oval, you had to have a computer figure it out for you.
Well, hooked up with the traffic, things happen so fast here, it's difficult to keep track of all of it.
You see Villeneuve there in that blue car. Just move inside Christian Fittipaldi.
Villeneuve's really charged hard all day.
He's had a well-balanced car, but now we know that they're taking a chance on their fuel.
He is the last man on the lead lap, running in 6th place. We're back up in 2nd place now. Paul Tracy.
Villeneuve did almost no testing here.
As we watch Paul Tracy, let's go to the Newman Hospitz again and Gary.
Well, unfortunately,
here comes Michael. Here comes Michael, Gary, right around Paul.
Okay, we were just going to say, because they thought he might be able to make the move, the push for Tracy has been compounded. And because they stayed out, they couldn't do anything about it. He's just paid the price by losing 2nd place.
But you know, the strange thing about that was Tracy waved him by. Now, that's what we've got to figure out. Maybe you guys can figure that out in the pits.
Well, the point is, Bobby, I believe that these 2 drivers, despite their independent natures and incredible burning ambition, have been cooperating. Michael let Tracy by at Australia 2 weeks ago, gave him a nice wave by, and now we've seen this happen. I think they're actually working together very effectively.
Interesting, for the first time in a number of years, the Newman Haas team is getting really good information because they have 2 drivers in Tracy and Andretti whose driving styles are similar.
Well, also Tracy, of course, coming from the Penske organization, a great test driver, very able to make the most of the data that the team accumulates as test miles are run up, and I think that that's starting to benefit Newman Haas now.
Of course, that's where Paul proved his worth for Penske, is he was hired originally just to test the car.
I think it's something the Penske team is probably missing right now and not having Paul Tracy.
So it is Fittipaldi at the front. Then Andretti, then Tracy. Here you'll see the interval. There's the leader, just went through. Right there.
There's Michael Andretti. It's a full straightaway. It's quite a bit. But there's still a lot of laps to go.
6.07 seconds. Fittipaldi over Michael Andretti. 169 laps complete. 31 to go. Interval closing down just a little bit. Michael trying to track down Emerson Fittipaldi. There he is. Emerson Fittipaldi out in front. But Michael, despite problems with the rear tire, very definitely in pursuit. We'll be back with more from Phoenix after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Pruett have been compounded. Contact with Paul Tracy going through turn 1, headed to 2. Suspension damage on the right front. They've changed the tires, and as we take a look at the replay, you can see how they just brushed together. It may have damaged the wishbone, the suspension on the right front. Pruett sits in the pits, just came off the jack. We'll see whether or not he can get back out. They tell him to try it. He's back headed. Oh, he stalls. No, it catches. And he gets away.
But Pruett losing 2 laps on that spot. Staying down in 6th place. The question I have, Bobby and Sam, is what about Paul Tracy's car? He was making a move on Tracy. The touch was to the left rear of Tracy.
I don't think that's a problem, Paul. You find that the rears are a whole lot stronger than the fronts. Pruett bent either an upward control arm or maybe the tie rod.
Bobby Rahal out of the race now with Jack Arute.
Bobby, on top of the points coming to Phoenix, what put you out of this one?
Engine broke. It felt like the same thing that happened in the warm-up yesterday afternoon. Yeah, too bad. The car wasn't great, but we were going to be a top 10, and unfortunately, this hurts us.
Well, it hurts him, guys, but he's got one more race between it now and Indianapolis, and of course, that's coming up in Nazareth.
His teammate Raul Boesel there being lapped by Emerson Fittipaldi. Boesel in the black and yellow car running 8th.
I'll tell you what, Rahal's not scoring a point here is going to have a massive impact on PPG points. Rahal will drop, if they finish as they are now, down into 4th place, tied with Villeneuve, actually tied for 3rd with Villeneuve with 30 points, and Paul Tracy will take the points lead, followed by Scott Pruett. But remember, Scott's in trouble. Let's go back to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, this poker game on pit road, we may have seen the first guy blink, that being Team Penske. According to our information, he has been radioed by the crew to come in 15 laps. I repeat, to stop in 5 laps. With 5 laps to go, look for Emerson Fittipaldi to make his presence known on pit road for what we call a timed fuel stop.
Now, the timed fuel stop means that they're just put in probably about 3 to 4 gallons. What Roger Penske's crew will figure out just enough to get him to the checkered flag.
But of course, that is like a little more than a stop-and-go penalty, and we saw what that did earlier, dropping Herta back more than a lap when it happened. So that's the consequence.
But Sam, keep in mind, there's a lot of other cars that are running fast out there that may have to do exactly the same thing.
Oh, yes, but if they don't, that could be crippling for Emerson. Remember that Emerson Fittipaldi came up in his early years as a world driving champion, driving nothing but road racing. It's funny to see him now as an old master of the ovals, but that's just what he is. And if he was able to win today and hang on, he will have won in 11 consecutive seasons. That's an incredible
One of the big stories at the end of this race, though, is going to be fuel for all the cars that are running fast.
14 laps to go. We'll be with you all the way through the checkered flag. Brian Herta just retired from the race, handling problems. He was 16 laps behind the leader. Look at this, the Penske pit. Rick Reineman waving down there like they're standing by to hook that car up. What do they give it? About 3 seconds of fuel, Bobby?
They will have it all figured up. It's going to be 3 to 4 seconds.